fight fans, I'd like to welcome on to this episode of BTR Boxing Podcast Network, the world-renowned famous artist, Patrick Killian. Patrick, it's a pleasure to have you on, and, you're going to be multitasking for this interview because you're working whilst you're going to be telling me about your story and your journey through boxing.
I am plodding away on something. I will show you in a minute what it is. Thanks for the introduction, then. World famous, that was nice of you. Very nice of you.
Well, it is. That's the thing. I see.
I know. I think I'm a bit humble sometimes, but it's it's nice. It's nice that people say that.
Well, we're going to talk about this journey that you're on at the moment and where it all began, because we've got so much to go through, and there's a lot that people don't know about you. I think they might see your paintings and they might see where your paintings end up and in sort of publications, but they might not know the story behind how it all began. And this is the whole point of us having this conversation, really, is to find out how it all began. And I'd like you to take me back to the beginning and tell me, where did its fascination with painting first begin?
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, as a kid growing up, I think, obviously I wasn't really academic in school, like, some of my friends. I was just average, I would say. And I can remember in junior school, my reports would be English average, maths average, art excellent. And it sort of started off when I was a very young kid. And I would always want a pencil to draw. I would always want a pen. I asked my mum, actually, not long back, and I said, when did it all start? She's like, probably I was 4 years old. I was asking for a pen or a pencil. So it was a very natural talent. It's not something that I sort of, don't get me wrong, obviously you practice, you get better. But it was a very natural thing as a kid it was one of those talents that I had quite naturally. So it was nice to, I had very lucky the parents I had. They were very encouraging throughout my life. And they've always been encouraging for me with whatever I wanted to pursue and do. And I went to school and I did exams and that. But to be honest, the only thing I was interested in was drawing and painting. So I think at that time then, I was around some good friends, and all my friends went to college. So I just took the natural thing and thought, well, what do I like doing? Which was art. I thought I'll just go to college as well. And that's what I did. I did a general art and design course. And then I passed out with a distinction, and I went on from there. And I did an illustration course. But during that time of doing an art course after school, because I didn't start my boxing until I was 16. I just left school and I started going to my old trainers. He's passed away now, love him, Dennis Rogers. He actually started in Newbridge Boxing Gym. And I was going down to his garage and just training. And then, it just sort of went from there. So I was going to college I started doing that. I was 17, then I went to college. And then I started my boxing career. So that's where that sort of came into it. And I think it was quite a natural thing that, I was doing as I was doing the boxing, I was doing an art course as well. So it sort of all come into play, really. It all sort of, it seemed a natural thing to sort of happen that way.
Was you always a boxing fan before you started taking the sport up yourself?
I would say, yeah, with watching it with my dad. And the one I always remember watching is Meldrick Taylor against Chavez. My dad loves Chavez, and I remember watching that with my dad, and then Meldrick Taylor and Chavez just catching him with about 5 seconds left, or 10 seconds left, and then I remember that one. I remember the 80s, and obviously because I was born in 74, so like 84, I would have been 10. And then when Tyson came on the scene in '86, I was a big fan, especially with Tyson. And I guess, Tyson would, because I remember on a Sunday paper, and I always remember watching Transworld Sport on a Sunday morning, early morning, and the boxing would be on little clips. I always remember reading because I had a Sunday paper round. I always remember reading the back and looking for the boxing bits. But yeah, I think, with my father, I would have loved to have started it younger. But I don't think I had it in me. I don't think that I was a bit of a mammy's boy growing up. My dad was a hard man, and he was a loving father, but a hard father to some extent. But I guess I was a bit of a mummy's boy growing up, and I never really got to it until I was like 16, and then you sort of get older, mature, and stronger. And I really fell in love with training at that time. Really fell in love with it. It was just my life. That's all I wanted to do every day. I was just running because I lived at the Scenic Drive. I live near Karzagi, and the mountains are around here, the hills, and it was just a daily thing. Every day. So it became, I guess, my life for a long time. Art and boxing was all I wanted to do. I then went. I started my boxing career. I was 18, actually. My first amateur fight, because I failed my medical. To actually, I would have boxed as a youth otherwise, but I failed my medical at 17, 16, 17. I would have been 17, and then I didn't get the medical, then the ECG and everything until I was 18. But they said, they said you're fit as a fiddle, because I had a heart murmur. They said you're fit as a fiddle. There's nothing wrong with you. Instead of a lot of athletes have got them. So and I started then, at 18. But then I started off. But I then went to Carmarthen boxing gym, because I went to study in Carmarthen. I went and done a HND illustration course at 18. So, loved the sport, but I sort of left the gym here in Cwmcarn and went down to Carmarthen to pursue. But I with boxing and that, you just meet the guys, and with boxing, you just get on with everybody. And the guys there were Kevin Evans, who was Commonwealth. He won the Commonwealth, or he boxed at the Commonwealth later on. But I was there in 93 to 95. And then so I was there for like 2 years in Carmarthen. And even though it was an illustration course, specifically wildlife illustration, but they allowed me to produce some, because they knew my background. So they allowed me, because it was quite a strange one, really. In my student digs, painting the bloody love songs, and then on the weekend I was boxing for my country. So it was quite a strange one. And I just loved it, mate. I absolutely loved it.
What were some of your early, paintings? What were some of the early illustrations that you created? You mentioned wildlife.
Yeah, I would say Tyson was a big thing. I remember sketching him a lot when I was 90, even when I was before I went to that college. But then I remember doing something of Marvin Hagler. It was just, whatever. I remember being inspired by Leroy Neyman because of the Rocky films as well. And at that time, I remember I was getting the Ring magazine, and Leroy Neyman was on the cover a lot then. So I was very inspired, and I think that's where the colour comes in to some of my pieces. Not all of them, but there was definitely an inspiration from him, and obviously the Rocky three film, you know, at the end of the film, and seeing him coming across him then as well in Rocky 3. So there's been inspirations from him, and obviously Sloan as well. Obviously, then he took over Leroy Neyman as after he passed away. But yeah, I mean, I would say my first bit of success came. I left college then in 1995, and I was obviously doing commissions for people of dogs and just different things like that, you know, pets and stuff. But my first commission that I was a commission of Steve Robinson, because at the time in 1995, Empress Car Sales were sponsors of ITV Boxing. And Di Gardner, the Empress Car Sales was right by my home. So the Di Gardner and Empress Car Sales had a gym right probably a mile from my house. And I would go there sparring sometimes, but I took an opportunity to actually see the owner of Empress Car Sales, and he commissioned me to do this piece of Steve Robinson, who was current world champion in 1995, before he boxed Nassim Hamed. So that was my first real bit of success, really. With the boxing paintings was probably around 95. But obviously, since then, you know, obviously things have. I pursued it a lot more. You know, that in that arena sort of thing. But you know, prior to that, it was very. That was, you know, it was a bit of everything. You know, because I am a young artist, leave college in 95. I actually did quite well starting off. I had some greeting cards published by some publishing companies. And then, you know, I just sort of felt to myself that, you know, because all my mates at the time were working, getting good jobs. One was a solicitor, he was doing one was a manager and someone else. And I just felt that I needed to earn more money. So at the time, I then got into, because of the boxing, I loved working with kids. Kids would always confide in me in the gym, and I loved just helping kids and stuff. So I then started doing a lot of little bit of youth work and kids clubs on the weekends and stuff, working with youngsters. Because I had such a good upbringing that I had a good mother and father. Yeah, you know, and I always felt that, you know, in a way, I guess, I don't, you know, maybe I liked it because, you know, giving some back. I knew what it was like to have a good upbringing, and a lot of people didn't. And I think I started doing the youth work thing. Got into that in a big way. I actually ended up doing a foundation and then a certificate, and I ended up doing a diploma. So whilst I was sort of doing my painting at part-time, sort of building up a following and an interest, I sort of got a part-time job at the same time, but doing something else I enjoyed doing. Mine, I made a point of that it was always something I enjoyed doing. So youth work became a big part of my life as well, I guess, as well as the boxing. And then I actually landed a good role in a school I was there for about 10 years. Because I was doing working with young offenders, I was doing a lot of youth work stuff in around the 96, 97. Actually wrong, I'm going too far here. Sort of 98, because I won a title. I actually won an amateur title in 97. And at that time, I'm sort of going back a bit here, sorry. But at that time, I sort of, I won a title, and it was an amateur boxing federation title, because we split the amateur boxing association and the fed. They split, and it was a bit of a pain in the ass, and a lot of people lost opportunities in that. But they were trying to do good things. But at that time, I was very serious of turning pro. I was thinking about it with going with Enzo and with Enzo Calzaghe with the gym in 97. Joe wasn't a world champion. Oh, no, he was a world champion then. But he'd won the British and I was seriously considering it. I was really thinking about turning pro. And because I looked at it in two ways. I had my art. I always had my art, and I was looking at it as a business sort of venture. Like if I turned pro, I thought it'd be a great story with my artwork. To be doing these paintings of the fighters, blah blah blah, and also being a professional. I did think of that, but to be honest with you, my hands were killing because I could bang. I stopped a lot of fighters. My hands were hurting from, and I think I've said this before on other things, but it did play on my mind that if I go pro, could I give it 100%? I didn't want to be a journeyman. I didn't want to just, it was either full in on that or give the art a crack. So I can remember I went up to Calzaghe's the once, and I was training with Paul Samuels, and I remember doing sit-ups with Paul, and Paul was like, he was going, "Oh, don't come up here, Pat." He said, "I wouldn't come up here." He says, "Just old Joe," like, and it does make you think, then when you hear things like that, But I didn't bother. I just thought, what, I'm just gonna give the art career a go, and stick with it. I remember going up to Enzo and saying things, I showed him. He had my work anyway, but I showed him this piece I'd done. I said, "Look, would you be interested in one? Which would you be prepared to pay if I was doing this?" Because I was at like a questionnaire, because he was a trainer. I said, "Would you commission me to do this and that? And how much would you be prepared to pay?" And he was but it didn't happen anyway. The professional thing didn't happen. I just stuck to the boxing, to the painting, and looked after these hands. I still train mine, and they do still. I don't bang it like I was if I like on the pads. I just enjoy training, and keeping myself in shape. I think it's something that never really leaves you. The boxing, always something left in the tank.
That's what they say.
I know.
So at that point then, Patrick, obviously you've made a huge decision to come away from the boxing and go full steam into the painting. Now, obviously, you're talking the late 90s at this point, where there was no social media around to be able to promote your work the way you can today. So, just for people that are not from that generation or remember what it was like before social media, what was it like for you trying to promote your work and try and get your name out there and try and getting people to look at the work you were doing?
Well, that's a really good question, because what you got to remember, right, is when you haven't got something, you don't miss it. So we, as a kid growing up, I just felt myself that there was a bit of a market there and I'm just thinking on purely for what I enjoy doing. I enjoyed boxing. I enjoyed painting the boxing. So how could I show that to people? And I felt that, well, the amateur game was still part of my life. I was training some lads at my local boxing gym. So I done my training things and that, and I became like a trainer for the youngsters for a bit. And I noticed that when I was going to the shows and stuff, but even when I was an amateur, I was even taking prints of my work and actually selling it to the guy. If I was boxing international in Scotland, I was taking prints of my work and selling it to the guys after, And then I sort of started to realise that there was a bit of a market there. Well, I thought, I got the contacts here with the boys in the amateur shows. I might as well just ask whoever got the show, I might as well ask them if I can go and exhibit and get prints of my work done and be and sell my work. So that's what I did for a while. I probably started doing that in '97. I remember going to a show, an amateur dinner show in Pontypool, and I think it's still out there, still as a print now, and it was Holyfield Tyson, and it was a pencil drawing. It was framed nice, and I remember selling that on the night for a few hundred, and I remember the guy sort of bartering with me, but I sold it at the end of the day. So it was a nice thing to leave the show and think, well, right, people are buying my work, people are buying my prints. So it was a start, and it was something that I was working sort of part-time at that time in '97, '98. I was working part-time doing a lot of youth work, but I was also putting myself in as an artist. And it was I guess, when you look back, I think, it probably did take a little bit of balls to sort of, turn up at a show and stick a table out, a trestle table out, and put a cloth over it, put some posters out, and hope that someone will buy something. But and then as that progressed, and you just want it to look better, don't you? You do these things and you want it to look better and better. So you just try to think how you can make things look better and do things better. So, you make it look more professional. I then sort of, I landed a good role in 2000. I landed a good job in a school, working with difficult children. And my main responsibility was to get these difficult kids through our GCSE. But bearing in mind, it was always in my mind that I always wanted to be a full-time artist. So that job for me, which was a fairly well-paid job, as at the time I was 25 when I got that job, and what it did for me was it was money to pay my mortgage. It was money to buy my materials. It was money to do whatever I had to do the next thing. And then, so when I was working in this school, which was brilliant, mate, because if there was an event on a Friday, I would say to my boss, "Oh, can I leave a bit earlier because I need to go and set up at this show, blah blah blah." Wasn't a problem. So it was great because I finished like that at 4 o'clock on a Friday or every day. Actually, with the school, it was great. Actually, I think it was 20 to 4. Might have been out by 3. I can't remember. But it was the perfect thing for me to sort of progress my into what I wanted to do. And I went on for 10 years. And I don't know if you've seen this or seen one of my pieces in 2006, The Fighting Irishman, which was an amazing show, an exhibition which traveled for like from 2006 to 2012 or 13. And it was on Irish and Irish American fighters from like 19th century. And I did the mural for it. But the school at that time allowed me to go out there for a week and, promote myself and et cetera, et cetera. But you will remember there was no social media then. Well, actually, there was YouTube started 2006, but I think I actually got a video on there of that from about that time. But yeah, it's been a long journey, and like I said, from that time, working in that school and exhibiting nearly every weekend, especially from around 2003, because nearly every weekend I was exhibiting at a show. And what happened, I said that I started off exhibiting my work at amateur boxing shows, but then that progressed then to professional boxing shows, because then I just felt that it would be a good avenue to showcase my work, and that's where it's sort of it sort of pushed it from there, really. And then even like the last few years, from 2016, I've started to travel a lot more. Actually, 2014, I exhibited in London at the Groves versus Froch fight, the rematch. I exhibited in London at the Hilton. Well, not Hilton. Yeah, it is a Hilton Wembley, and they allowed me to. Matchroom allowed me to exhibit at the actual weigh-in. Well, that was a good opportunity for me because no, I had been made redundant at this time, so I'm switching forward again. Yeah, I'd been made redundant from my school job in 2009. So I was there for around 10 years, and it made me realize that, you know what, do I give this a shot? Because my dad was brilliant at that time. He said, look, Pat, he said, you know what you got to do? Just give it a shot. Give it a go. If it doesn't work out, get a job. And so that's what I did. I sort of thought, you know what? Because at the time I was doing quite well, to be honest, through my art anyway. So I was like doing 2 jobs at the time in 2009. And I thought, let's give this a shot, you know? And when you start working for yourself, you look for you don't wait for it. You look for, you know, where can I exhibit? What, you know, where can I showcase my work? And that's what I did. You know, I'd be messaging all the time, different people. You know, can I come and exhibit at the show? Can I come and do this? I'd exhibited on Frank Maloney's, no, Kelly Mahoney. I exhibit a lot on his shows. I exhibit a lot of Matchroom shows. I exhibited a lot of Frank Warren shows. As a matter of fact, I was on Frank Warren's website a lot at one point. And that's how it developed, you know. After I was made redundant and sort of put myself out there, I guess. And it's always a learning curve. You're always learning, you know. It's a constant thing, you know. You're learning all the time how to do things better and, you know, to promote yourself better. Yeah, you know, I'm waffling on you, mate. I don't know if you want to ask me something, mind you carry on. You know, just butt in if you want to.
Oh no, absolutely. You're telling us a great story. The thing is, you're explaining to myself and people that are watching into this about how you've progressed your way throughout your career. So I suppose at this point, questions that I'll have are things like, when you was first put in a published magazine, so obviously the Boxing News, and when Boxing Monthly was around before it unfortunately folded quite recently.
That's actually interesting because I never really pursued the cover thing, but what I did do back in that time is, as you just mentioned, then the social media, we didn't have that. So what did I do at that time? Frankly, I think back in 1997, I think I was in Boxing News. I think I might have been I was definitely in Boxing News. Funny enough, I was looking at that the other day. There was little adverts in there. Nassim Ahmed print, £15, you know? but like, you know, I can remember my dad as well. And you know, there was the address on there to send your checks at that time. I know some people still use checks. And, you know, I'd be getting checks through the door, and I always remember breakfast morning, come downstairs, and my dad, it was my first print release of Nassim Ahmed. It was 1997. And I can remember I put this advert in the magazine, in the Boxing News, and I think I put it in Boxing Monthly, and it wasn't cheap either. And, you know, it was £15 plus postage and packaging, and, you know, checks started coming through the door. Now, you know, it wasn't brilliant, but it probably covered what I paid for the bloody advert. But you're learning, you know what I mean? And you're getting yourself out there. People are collecting your print or whatever. And I always remember my dad saying to me, he said, that's all right, son. He said, it'd be nice to have a few more of them coming through. and open the envelope up and get a check for £15 or more, 15 plus postage or whatever. And in 1997, I mean, it's it's a little bit more than it is now worth, but it was a start. It was getting my stuff out there, and it wasn't really about the money. I got to be honest. It was the fact that my work was in. I was selling my print. People were buying my print. It was quite a nice feeling, I'd sign the print and people roll it up, put it in a tube, and send it off, and that was a very nice thing for me to actually think that people were willing to spend money and have my work. And then it went from that, and I felt that, I advertised in the Boxing News quite a bit, actually, quite a few times, and in Boxing Monthly over the years. It never really occurred to me, funny enough, to ask about going on the magazine. Back then, I have since, and we talked a few times about it, and I've seen other artists, different ones that are on different things, and it was good to get on the Ring magazine after all the years that I'd read it, and it'd be nice to get on it a bit more as well. And funny enough, I got one coming up. Something coming up, which is quite a big. It's a martial arts magazine, so this is quite a good one coming up that I'm on the cover. It's a bit of a surprise, but that's I can't really say much about that yet because that's not out there. But that'll be released very shortly. So I've sort of got to deal with a magazine which could be something good, but that so that's how I advertised back then, and it is quite frustrating actually to think that that it wasn't around then, the Twitter and the Instagram and different things. It would have been it would have been so much easier and just, well, it just would have been brilliant. And I don't think many people do use magazines these days for advertising, to be honest. I think things have changed in that respect. But it's definitely all a learning curve, and nothing. I don't regret doing any of that, and putting myself out there, and I think for me then, like I said to you, in 2014, I exhibited at the weigh-in for Froch Groves, and I think that was a bit of a learning curve for me because it never really occurred to me that to showcase my stuff at a hotel or at somewhere like that, and I wasn't going to do it. I actually was in the weigh-in, which was rammed. It was unbelievable because I think there was 10,000?
Yep.
At the weigh-in. And I was in a good spot. I was in a spot, people were walking past. I did okay. I saw quite a lot of prints of the Froch Groves, and even prior to the actual even prior to the fight as well. And you talk about law of attraction. Before that fight happened, the second fight, I sort of said to myself, if I get this signed, I do an original painting now of Froch Groves. If I do an original painting, I think I could sell that for 10 grand. And I can remember thinking to myself, and I kept saying it to myself, I could sell this for this much, If I can get this signed by the two of them, I think I could sell it. And it was funny because I went to an event. His trainer at the time, Paddy, what's his name?
Fitzpatrick.
Paddy Fitzpatrick, his trainer. he was having an event. So I contacted Paddy. I said, look, I've done this painting. Can I come and exhibit it at the show? I said, I'll give you a canvas of the piece and go into Groves. Like, yeah, no problem. Met up with Groves. Groves signed it. Good event, you know. So again, putting myself out there, sold prints, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought, well, I need to get Frost to sign it. And I thought, and it was funny because I went to bed one night, and it was as if it was meant to be. I looked at my phone and I just flicked up Twitter, and Frost was training in Manchester in the morning, and I thought, I gotta go. It's the only opportunity I got. I gotta go to the public workout in Manchester. I think it was Manchester. Or it might have been Nottingham. Actually. I've got to go and take this painting. Text my mate. I said, "You fancy coming up to Nottingham public workout, Froch?" Yeah, he said, "I'll come up." So off we went. Took it through. I think I knew one of the security guys. I said, he said, "Oh, come on." So he took me through to where the public workout was. So I stood there with my painting. At the end, Froch signs it. So I think I left a load of prints in the changing room for Froch as well, like that. I left a load in there. He left them in there. I found out after. Later on when I met with Froch, and he signed it. So anyway, so I took this painting in, contacted Mushroom, allowed me to exhibit at the weigh-in. Done good, blah blah blah. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, "You want to exhibit this?" He said, "At the Hilton." And I said, "Where's the Hilton?" He said, "Oh, just around the corner as you drive out." And I said, "Oh, thanks, And as I left, I'd done all right that day. I did okay with the selling the prints and stuff. And as I was in my car, just about to leave the arena, it was turn left to go home or turn right to go to the Hilton. And I very nearly, because I'd done okay, I very nearly turned left to go home. And I thought, nah, let's turn right. I'll drive outside the Hilton. I'll just pop in and see if I can exhibit it. And lo and behold, I went in, I took my iPad in, I spoke to the manager and I said, "Look, I've got a print for you. Can I exhibit my painting?" They said, yeah, no problem. I said, "Look, it'd be great." I said, it was rammed in there. All the stars, everybody you could think of was going in, was there on that hotel on that weekend. And in all honesty, they looked a bit scruffy, to be honest, mate. And I said to the security guy in the hotel, I said, "Do me a favor." I said, "Can you wash my paint in a minute?" I went off and got a nice suit jacket because I wanted to look smarter. And I then come back in and, because I looked smarter, I think. And I stayed that weekend and I managed to sell that painting for exactly what I said. And on that very night, as a matter of fact. But I stayed the whole weekend because obviously I sold a lot of the prints. I sold a lot of, and it was great because I think it was it made me realize that I could showcase my work in other avenues. And I've never really been one to sort of exhibit my work at galleries that often. I have more now, obviously out in Vegas and different places, but I've taken a different approach to it, and it's worked for me anyway. It has worked in that sense. But that was a really good learning curve for me. It just proved to me that, and I gave a good percentage of that money to a charity that I'm an ambassador of, which is the Amelia May Foundation, which is a children's cancer charity. And the first time I did that was when, oh no, actually it was after this. So, it was nice to be able to do that as well and give something to the charity that it's a children's cancer charity and So the fact that the guy signed it, you know, I gave some back in that way. Do you know what I mean? So that was a really good event for me, and that was 2014. So what was that? 7 years?
Yep, 7 years.
And I've done quite a bit since then. It made me realize that, you know, I could showcase my work at a lot of other places, and that's what I started doing. And also, but see, the reason why I do it as well, it's not just about, because even though I'm an artist, and a lot of artists are recluses, you know, they just want to stay in their studio. They don't really go out. They don't want to exhibit. They want the gallery to do that job for them. They just want to paint and do their, you know, let everybody else do their thing. But I got to be honest, I actually enjoy talking to people. I enjoy that people coming up to me and saying, "Oh, Pat, I follow you on Instagram, or I follow you on Twitter, and love your work, blah blah blah." And I enjoy that interaction. And you've got to be honest, I think that has created something as well. You know, people will always come back up to you. They'll always chat to you or whatever. And yeah, I really do enjoy that part of it. And I've created commissions that way. You know, meeting people when I've been out at an event, and you know, or could you do this for me, or could you do that? So that's the other thing as well. And it's about the networking for me. That's what it's been for me. And I realized that over the years when I look back, you know, connect the dots looking back, as Steve Jobs would say. You can't connect them going forward, you connect them going back. And I realized that all the people I've met, all the connections, all the networking, that's where that's been brilliant, you know, from doing that. Because I might have, and it's happened a lot, you know, where I've gone and exhibited a painting and sold jack shit. But I've made connections with people that are down the line I've actually met, and something has happened with, you know. I was going to paint you, wasn't I? I haven't done anything. Anyway, I want to show you something. This is what I've been working on. Let me see if I can flip this around. Are you still there? No, I flipped it. You've actually gone in color.
Hey.
Wait a minute. Let me see if this works here. Excuse the mess on the floor. I'm actually doing Isaac Lowe.
Wow.
It's actually a commission for somebody. But this, I'm just what I'm doing here now, I'm blocking in color. I'm blocking in all the color, and then I'm going to go back over with more detail. I mean, it probably looks pretty detailed to some people, but it'll look better than this. So, you know, it's coming nice, this one. There's a shot there of the Executioner. That's signed by Bernard. There's a piece I'm working on the back there of Ben and Eubank. There's a signed piece of Calzaghe. That's a signed Crawford Khan in the bottom. That's a canvas edition on it. There's that's a signed Duran. That's a print as well, canvas edition. That's actually sold. That's number one. That's sold. I just sold recently. That is signed by Spence and Porter. And I'm going to take you downstairs in a minute. I mean, I got lots of bits and bobs around here now. This canvas edition is going. I've got this piece I'm working on here. I have to take my thing out a sec. I did sell. Well, I nearly sold it, but then I didn't. This piece, it's a nice piece, but I got to be careful because the shot in the middle is by a specific photographer.
Yeah.
What's his name? I met him out in Saudi Arabia. Brilliant chap. I sketched him as well. I can't think of his name now. But anyway, here's my better view of my studio. There you can see
it's where the magic
size of it. This is where the magic happens. Not that type of magic, but so this is another part of my studio. It's actually my kitchen, which has recently been done, but we've got some beautiful pieces here. This was actually exhibited out in Saudi Arabia. Haven't sold yet. I was a bit disappointed because it was supposed to be in an auction at the gala dinner out in Saudi Arabia, but it didn't come off because they wanted 100% to go to the charity. So I decided not to do that. That's sold. That's number one. That's sold. But a guy, he's bought quite a few actually. This one guy. Recently done this one of Thug Rose. It's resined as well. Looks lovely. That one is also signed by Canelo. There's one down here, which is signed by Joe. There's one here, the man of the moment. Actually, this is Progresso. It's actually signed by Josh. Little print. Signed by Josh. Progress. But then there's obviously one there of Yogi, and he's fighting this weekend. He signed that, Yogi, as well. And that has been signed by old Ricky. So there's lots of, even got the WB belt on the wall. It's not mine, no. Yeah, so, this is my kitchen and office. No. But this is where I end up here. Well, actually, I'm in the kitchen a lot and also up here a lot, to be honest. So back, if I tell you, I went out then to Las Vegas. I decided to. I just wanted. Excuse my t-shirt, a bit creased, but it's a working. I decided 2016. No, sorry, yeah, it was 2016, and Canelo was fighting Amir Khan, and I thought I'd get out to Vegas. I wish I'd done it earlier. Actually, that's wrong. Sorry. When did Fury fight Klitschko? 2015?
2015, yeah.
Yeah, because after Frost Groves, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna take the paint in, and I'm gonna go to the fight. And it was brilliant, We got the painting signed by Vladimir. We got the painting signed by the other one. What's his name? Vladimir and
Vitaly.
What's his brother's name? Vitaly, sorry. We got the painting signed by Tyson Fury. We got the painting signed by Michael Buffer. Got the painting signed by Tony Weeks, the referee. And I sold it, So that was a great one to actually go out there and do something similar. And even then to go to the fight and to see Tyson do it was brilliant. Yeah, so from doing that, and then I sort of, it made me realize in a way that I could showcase my stuff internationally as well as showing it wherever, basically creating opportunities for myself. And even to the extent of 2000 and when did Pacquiao fight Mayweather?
2015.
No, I should have gone out to Vegas. I should have gone because I was told that it was massive. It was just ridiculous. But it's a learning curve, and you just learn as you go on. But what I did do for that fight, I actually I contacted a casino in London, and they were showing the fight, Mayweather versus Pagno, and I contacted the I'm trying to think of his name because he the owner of the what's the main casino in London?
It's not Grove. It's not Grosvenor, is it?
What's that?
It's not a Grosvenor one, is it?
No. It ain't. No. Hippodrome? Might be. It might be a Hippodrome. Oh, I don't know. I might be wrong. But anyway, I contacted the guys and they said, great. They were showing the fight. So, they were happy for me to be there, painting live and exhibiting. So I took that opportunity. It was a bit of a hassle and thing, mine, but I got to be honest, I'm actually surprised in a way that they let me do it because health and safety wise, but they let me do it. So I turned up and that was quite an interesting one, but again, I mean, it opened doors, it opened, I'm in London, I'm doing this piece and exhibiting, and I didn't do a lot on the night, but at 4 a.m, I'm still there. 4 a.m, or it might have been 3 a.m. But people are gambling. Fights finished. What time did that fight finish? Was it 4 a.m, something like
that? 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, weren't it?
I go all the way through, right? So you imagine now, 4 o'clock in the morning. There's still people in there gambling, right? 4 a.m, and I'm working on this piece, and this guy comes out and he goes, "Hey," he said, he goes, "What are you doing tomorrow?" What? And it's an expensive area in London. And he goes, "What are you doing tomorrow?" He said, I'd like the commissioner to do something. He said, "Can you come to my place tomorrow morning and come and have a chat with me?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." I said, "Where do you live?" Blah, blah, blah. And he lived in a nice area, blah, blah. So anyway, I left that casino something like 5 a.m. or 5:30 in the morning. I was meeting this guy at 10 or about 10 no, sorry, it might have been in the afternoon. But there was no point me going from London back to Wales and then back again. So like at 5 a.m, I'm leaving the casino. People are still gambling. I'm leaving a casino. I drive to this guy's area. I fall asleep in my car. And I then have a meeting with him in the afternoon. It was like early afternoon. And I get the commission. And it was a good commission. But if I hadn't done that, and if I hadn't gone there in the first place and, exhibited and done whatever, it wouldn't have come off. I have a lot of stories like that, to be honest, too, but, and it's good. It goes to show the power of persistence, the power of never giving up, and that sort of thing.
So the networking part of it then is just as important as obviously actually creating the masterpieces themselves, isn't it? Because it's good for you to be able to put them together and create this amazing artwork, but you've got to get people interested in it, and you've got to do that by any means necessary. If that means going into a casino at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning because there's a huge fight on and exhibiting it there, a perfect place, I suppose, when people are maybe winning thousands of pounds at the same time.
Yeah.
And yep, I'll have a bit of that. But obviously,
exactly.
It's been a great journey for you from where you've come from to where you've got to now. So there's probably a few questions that I've got that I'm gonna fire at you, because I bet there's a few instances that you've gone through where I wonder what his thoughts are on this, and I wonder what's been like the strangest thing that he's done. So I think the first one, the one that's most intriguing to me, is like, out of all the commissions you've had, which has been the strangest?
The strangest?
Yep.
The strangest?
Yeah.
Well, it got me thinking, because I'm just trying to think as a strange one. Do you know what I mean? Well, I wouldn't say it's strangest. No, it's, in what terms do you mean? In what sort of aspect? It was sort of weird, as in strange.
I suppose like you've done loads of things over the years as well as boxing. Like you've mentioned, you've done nature, you've done artwork of people's
Yeah,
families, portraits, that type of stuff.
yeah,
Is there been
yeah.
anything out of the ordinary that you've probably done?
I wouldn't say out of the ordinary. Well, I wouldn't say out of the ordinary. The Fighting Irishman was something special for me because it was a really first, and it was from America, and it was one of the first main big commissions that I had. But I've when somebody's got married. I mean, Peter Shilton got married, and I actually painted live at his wedding.
Wow.
A painting of him and his partner, and I painted it live through the day. Now, not of them on that day, but there was a specific shot that they both liked, so we talked about it prior, and I worked on this image throughout the day. So as people were there, through the day, they were coming back to the specific room that I was in, and they could see it progressing. So I'd done that, but I'd done that a couple of times now. Which is something I offer, something different, something people, it was something that I thought of. I'm trying to think outside the box a lot. I'm trying to think of something different. Again, and I didn't mention this earlier about the Amongst Legends paintings, which happened around just before the time that I was made redundant from my job in the school. I was doing this from around 2007, 2008. I think it was 2008. And I got involved with this company. I was just about to be made redundant, so it must have been 2009. And I contacted this company called Champions UK, and they were doing a lot of events for celebrities. And I said, look, I'm doing a paintings of whatever, of a subject matter involving that celebrity, but the winning bidder gets to be in the painting. So whether it was a painting of actually where it started, the Amongst Legends started at some of the boxing shows, I think, and it was Ali versus Tyson, because Tyson was over here in 2007, I think. So I started doing like a Tyson versus Ali painting, but the referee in the middle of the painting, the person that won the bid was I would then paint them in as the referee. I would take a picture of them and take it back to my studio and add them in as the referee. I did that quite a few times. But then I felt that it was a good idea. So I contacted this Champions UK company just before being made redundant. Well, I was being made redundant. And I said, would you be interested in me coming to your shows and painting live? And lo and behold, I was just being made redundant, and they go, we've been looking for somebody on this. Can you come and have a meeting with us? So I go and have a meeting with this company, Champions UK, and I sit down, we chat, and we come up with an agreement where they'll cover my expenses to go to the events, and we sort of split the sale of the item. I would go to their events. I would do a live painting of the sporting celebrity, and then it would be auctioned off that night. But the winning bidder would be in that painting. So they did events with Sally Gunnell and Colin Jackson. So I did a painting of them both running, jumping hurdles, and the winning bidder actually he was jumping the hurdles as well. So it was all different ones like that, and obviously, when you've got a group of businessmen in a room, and they got an opportunity to be on a painting, it's something a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? It's something a bit more special. And actually, I think the person that got me sort of to do it at the event, it was an event with Under the Post, Tony. And Tony was having an event with I can't think of his bloody name now. England rugby hooker, Jason Leonard, right? And he was having an event with Jason Leonard. So I'm at this event, and I'm doing something with Tony at an event. And he said, "Oh, I got an event next week with Jason Leonard." He said, in the scrum and everything. I said, "Yeah, I could do a painting of blah, blah, blah." I said, "It's a bit boring, wasn't it? I want to do something different." He said, "Well, why don't we make the winning bidder the hooker?" And I looked at him and I went, "What? Even why do we make the winning bidder the hooker?" And I couldn't believe he said it. I thought it was bloody brilliant. And I said, "That's brilliant. That's a brilliant idea." So off I went, because I can do something quite quick, as in an idea. I just thought of the three of them in the scrum, just find a nice image, and we leave the head blank of the hooker. Anyway, that went well. That piece, it didn't go for as much as I would have liked it to, but I've learned a lesson since that. But the guy that bought it actually commissioned me, a good commission as well. After that, he commissioned me to do something else. So that goes to show again, you're networking and the clients involved. But that's where, so I started working with this company, with all different companies actually, and doing this amongst legends thing as well. I haven't done it for a while, but because obviously the events, especially with COVID and stuff. But the best one we've done, right? Best one I've done was in the Dorchester Hotel in London. I didn't make much on this. Most of it went to charity, because it was Make-A-Wish Children's Charity, and it was a friend of mine, and actually an agent of mine, Mr. Bookats from London. He was like acting as a part agent for me on my behalf, and he'd done this on a number of occasions for me. And so he got me the job, and he would, anyway. The idea was that we do a painting of Jensen Button, because Jensen Button had just won the world title, and we would do a painting of Jensen Button coming down. Well, this is my plan anyway. I did Jensen Button coming down, winning the world title, and Jensen Button Barrichello is in the front, and Jensen Button's raising a bottle of. Actually, I think he's just got his fist in the air, and Barrichello he's raising a bottle of champagne. So the winning bidder, I leave Barrichello's face blank, and I actually paint in the winning bidder. But anyway, this painting, it was being signed by Jensen Button. He got $6,000 at the auction. So I did a lot of those for charity over from 2007 or 2008 to like quite a few years. And the most recent one of them I sold, talking about strange commissions, was a piece that I did of the classic film Pulp Fiction, where you've got Vince Vega and Jules Winnifield with their guns. And what I did, I split them apart, and I put an extra person in the middle. Now that's on my website if you want to flick something up as we are talking about all these things. For an extra person to be a hitman with Empire, and he actually bought off me before, this guy. But anyway, he commissioned me then to add his face in this piece, because he wanted it for his new apartment. So that's quite an odd one. That's quite an unusual piece. But I like doing them. There's something a bit quirky and a bit different, and something you can. If you've got a business and you've got guys coming into your office, and there's a picture of you as a referee with Tyson and Ali, and you're the referee in the painting, and it's like, it's a talking point, It's quite a funny talking point, like.
Yeah, so there's definitely quite a few that you've done, more than quite a few that you've done that are probably out of the ordinary, in the sense that you've been able to slot people into it, or the buyers have been able to get themselves in the painting of famous people involved in them, or famous scenes out of films, like you've mentioned there with Pulp Fiction. So that's, that is, for me, that's quite out of the ordinary, because you don't see it.
Exactly.
So I would class that as that. But going around the world as you've been to many places, you've obviously met many people, many boxers who have signed your prints. Has there been anybody in particular out of all the people that you've met where you wasn't expecting them to be the way they were when you met them in person? Maybe you had a perception, or there was a perception of them, in the media, and then you've met them and it's like, wow, this person's totally different. And these sort of meetings are quite humbling.
I probably would say out of that, Froch was one, because sometimes he might come across a bit arrogant and different things, but he's actually quite funny, and he's actually a character, to be honest. He actually puts a lot of this. When I chatted with him at his home, it was a breath of fresh air, breath of fresh air sort of thing. It was like, the 80,000 thing is just something now he riles people up with it. He just does it because he knows that, and he'll jump into a conversation, he says, just to spark someone off, just to wind people up. And he does it for that purpose, he said. And so it was quite, it was quite nice to, and he was very refreshing and quite down to earth, really. I think we're all down to earth. Even, the same sort of thing is with Mayweather. I presented Mayweather a piece in London of him versus Pacquiao, and it was a stare-down piece, which you would find on my website. And I could tell that he was humbled by, he appreciated it, because I don't think he expected it, and he was like, "Oh, thanks, thanks for that." And it wasn't he didn't brush it off and say, "Oh, they'll take that, have that, look after that for me," sort of thing. He actually, he liked it. I could tell by the look of his face, he appreciated it, and he walked past me then, and as I was doing this piece live, and he sort of tapped me on the shoulder. I was like, "Yeah, looking good, man, looking really good." So, you get a lot of people, you can't fault of where he came from and what he's achieved. You can't knock anyone for, achieving their dream as such and becoming. And Josh Taylor's a lovely guy. To be honest, they're all nice. They're all nice. I got to be honest. At the end of the day, it's just a perception, isn't it, of what we feel of people and what they, what we see on the TV a lot of the times, and there's a perception. And Taylor's a lovely guy. He's Teofimo really made an effort with me a few times. He's seen me. I've done a painting of him. I've done probably one of the first paintings that he had when I was out in New York. And it was like early before he was world champion. And I did. His father came up to me, actually. His father came up to me and said, "Hey," he said, "do paint of my son." He said, "He's going to be a world champion." He said, "I guarantee you he's going to be a world champion." And I looked and I didn't realize. And I went off. I went off, bought a little canvas in an art store in New York, went and sat in a coffee shop, and I was doing this painting. And I went back. I was doing it live then, actually, in the hotel that we were in, because I've got a very good relationship out there in New York with the hotel opposite the Madison Square Garden. They're brilliant with me and the guys there, and they allow me to exhibit and showcase my work. And so I did this with Teofimo, and we got some little prints done, and it was lovely. And then I've also then done another one of Teofimo, and obviously I got a send one, actually. I contacted him the other day, and he got back to me. Even though as a champion, I sent him a message on Instagram and asking him where, what's the best address and all that sort of thing. And he got back to me within it didn't take long. And but what I liked is when he went when Tyson was in Vegas, and Tyson was doing a signing session, I was doing a live painting of Mike Tyson at the front of the store in Las Vegas in the MGM Grand. And all the fighters were obviously the fighters that were doing well, and that would just cut in the queue and going in to see Mike and having a photo with him and stuff. And Teo was one of the ones, but Teo made an effort, and he's actually done this a few times. He's done this in Vegas on numerous occasions, he'll come up to me and he'll do like a live sort of thing and say, hey, here's Killian, he's the first one to capture me on a canvas, blah blah blah. So that's you don't have to do that, and that's appreciative. It's nice to have a shout out like that, especially from a superstar now. It's happened a couple of times. And I tell you who was cool as well is Roy Jones. Roy Jones Jr. I was out in Las Vegas. Roy Jones was having a promotional show, and he was having a boxing show out in Vegas. And I contacted him and I said, "Is it all right if I do a live piece at your show at your event?" He said, "Yeah, no problem." He said, "Contact so and so, blah blah blah." And then he was great. So I presented him with that piece at the end of the show, and I actually got on TV in Vegas on that as well. Only a brief shot, and they panned in me and said, "And here's a brilliant piece of the champ," and they sort of panned off, but it was it was on live TV or whatever. But so it's nice, to be honest, and to meet these guys and to have a passion and like a job that I created that and I have a lot of pleasure from, and I get an opportunity to meet these guys and sometimes put a smile on their face if I've done a piece and I hope so. Anyway, I hope they appreciate what I've done, and I've had some nice compliments from people as well. I mean, Mel PR, the PR agent, she does the PR for the fighters and that. She came up to me before in New York and said, she said, "You're very well respected in the boxing thing," and I was like, "Huh?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "You're known," and I that's probably from Twitter and different things, and it's nice to hear that. Because it's funny as I just paint these paintings and I just hope people like them, and then so when I get somebody who wants to pay good money for a print or a canvas edition or an original, it's nice. It's a nice feeling, because that's at the end of the day, I suppose I need to sell to continue what I'm doing. But the other thing is, I would do it anyway. I'd be doing it anyway if I wasn't being paid for it. Because when you want to create and you have a passion, it's funny. My mum was like a couple of weeks back or a couple of months ago. She was like, "Were you gonna put it all? Would you?" And I was like, "Do you think that I think about where I'm going to put something when I create it? I just I just put it somewhere. I'll find bloody somewhere to put it. I'm just going to create something." But yes, it is. I feel blessed in a way, that I can do what I do and get it out there. And I think we're at the time now, mate. We're at the time now, and the internet has only been around for 15 years. What we can do now is just unbelievable. Compared to what it was like years ago.
Out of all the paintings you've done, which is your favourite? I know that's going to be a hard one to answer because you've done loads. I suppose actually it's a double question, really, Patrick. Like, how many would you estimate that you've done in terms of paintings over the years? And would there be any particular favourites? I'm not going to ask you to nail down one particular one because I know that'll probably be incredibly hard. But I reckon there's definitely a few that you've done yourself, and you look at them and you go, I'm over the moon with that. And you probably do it for every single one, to be honest. But is there a few?
No, I don't know. But there is definitely a few. But it's a weird one, because obviously I like the Fighting Irishman, but not necessarily. I like the Fighting Irishman because the impactness of it, as the size of it was as well, the size, because it was 5 foot by 3.5 feet. If you type in YouTube, The Fighting Irishman by Pat Killian or Killian Art, a couple of videos will come up and you'll get to see how big the exhibit was. It was amazing to be part of that. So that will obviously always have something there. But then I actually like the simpleness of the Tyson piece I did. Actually, it's not framed properly there, but it's not framed properly. But you can see the shot on the bottom there.
Yeah, yeah.
And he actually signed. Like 10 of them. I sold 8 of them. I got 2 left. Oh no, I got 1 left. I sold one. I have sold another one. But I would say I do like that painting because it's very striking, but very simple. And sometimes less is more. Sometimes you do stuff, and I've done this before where I painted something that's been really pissing me off because it ain't all plain sailing. You do get stressed, even though I love what I do. You do get, sometimes it just doesn't work. You've got to get away from it. That's where the training comes in. It's nice to go away and just work out and take your mind off stuff. And I lost my train of thought then. What was I on about?
Yeah, you're on about the Tyson piece.
Yeah. It was. I think it's just the simplicity of it that I and having him sign a number of them as well is great. It's. But I was saying about the simplicity, wasn't I? But sometimes you could do more, that's right. I was saying about a piece that I was doing, and you would take it. Just doesn't work. There's something wrong. It just doesn't work. And I was trying to do too much. I was trying to add all the background in. I was trying to add a crowd, and I thought, what the fuck am I doing? So I ended up just painting totally painted out the background, and I splashed I did a bit of blue, the nice turquoise blue that I use. I signed my name in, and I put it all the way around in very sort of painterly. And I thought, boom, that was it. That's all it needed. It didn't need all this bloody, faff in the background. And so sometimes I think we can be, because I can be very realistic. I can be, I can do that. But then as I've learned and progressed in what I do, I found that, sometimes it's more difficult to try and be a little bit different and try and give it that something that isn't like a photograph. Because I can understand why people eventually go into doing like the abstract stuff, because when we're young, we're trying to just draw something like it is, like a photograph. And then, I think as we develop in our careers, let me know if you can hear me, right? Because he's just popped. I heard him just bubble, and it might go off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, still going.
Yeah. So it's sometimes you want to push yourself. You want to do something. That's why I try. I want to do something a little bit different, and that's why then you sort of apply color. You apply different strokes. You apply, you just want to give it something different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like just a very simple. Like I did these for the Canelo, for the fight with Billy Joe, but they're not. They're not. It was just something. I didn't paint the whole canvas, and again with Billy Joe in the background there.
Yeah.
I just added the splashes of color, but it works. I painted that live on Box Nation. That was a few years ago. And then there's something a bit different there. With the
Hopkins one, yeah.
Yeah, the lines, as if like a 3D. It's just trying to this is more of a realistic piece, I guess. But yeah, it's a weird one, you know, because you can do things, and obviously, just sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does work, and then there's pieces you really like, and then there's pieces that you're not so fussed on. But the thing is, you know, it's a classic saying: "Beauty's in the eye of the beholder." Because I can do something, and then I won't like it, and somebody will come in to say, "Oh, you know, that's great. I missed you on for that," or whatever. And they love it. And then, but to me, I'm not showing it because I'm not fussed on it. You know, it's a weird one in that sense. But I suppose all artists are the same in that. You know, I would think.
Do you think you're quite kind of overcritical of yourself at times where, as you rightly pointed out, you know, people may look at your artwork through social media and they look at it and go, that's absolutely amazing. But to you, you just kind of see an average painting because that's your eyes are so trained and you're so tuned into doing things in a certain way that, you know, from someone else's perspective who's not an artist, who doesn't create things the way you create them, would see that as something, you know, a lot higher level compared to yourself who does this on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think I certainly sometimes have to take a step back and sort of think, you know, that, you know, I'm looking at it as somebody that have done this for a long time now, you know, and you know, obviously people are different, you know, or not everybody's at that sort of level or whatever, and yeah, so that's certainly something you can, but you know, you can do stuff and do compositionally, you can look at something and think, I don't know, there's something not right. You know, but then, you know, it's all about learning, and that certainly does come. Obviously before lockdown, was an amazing event for me, going out to Vegas for the Wilder Fury fight, and actually exhibiting the piece at the Art of Music store, and then doing a live piece of Tyson. And obviously, you know, the piece I showed you downstairs, you know, going out to Saudi Arabia and exhibiting that piece. Yeah, it's just brilliant, mate, you know.
So going forward, then obviously you've got so many events that you can get to, so many things that you can do, so many different types of paintings that you can do. You mentioned earlier about you getting in magazines. How many times have you been in the front of the magazines now, or been in the magazines, the artwork?
Well, I've only been on the ring once. I've been inside the ring regarding something. But that's it for me. I've only been on that one, on the ring mag, once. I would like to get on there more, but obviously, you know, you've got other artists as well, and I'm not sure how they work around it. The last time I spoke to Dougie, he did, you know, we were going to do quite a few covers, so I don't really know what happened there. But obviously, he's you know, it's up to them, innit? What they going to use and what they want to use, and etc. If they want to use me or use another artist or what. But yeah, it would be nice. Like I said, I am on one. I'm on a different sort of thing very soon, which is a.
Obviously, it's one that you can't disclose too much information about at the moment. But again, it's one of them. You've shown us a picture before, the MMA fighter, and obviously there's a lot of crossover sports that you can do paintings for. So you're not
exactly.
You're not kind of limited to the sport of boxing, but I think a lot of the stuff that goes on social media and a lot of stuff we've seen quite recently has been a lot of the either the fighters or the fights or certain paintings that you've put on there, and I think it's captivated the audience on different social media platforms because they've seen it and they thought, wow, this is an amazing photograph. And I see it and then I'll see like thousands of retweets and likes and likes on Instagram, and people are just appreciating the work and the effort and the time that goes into creating these fantastic pieces of art. And
thanks,
well, it's not just me, it's thousands of them out there that I know that I see every day. When you put something out there and they see it and they go, wow, this is great. And I'm one of them, and it's the reason why we wanted to get you on to the pod to talk about it and talk about how it all began, where it came from, the types of people you've been around because of it, and it's led you to some by the sounds of it, some amazing moments, and you've created some amazing memories off the back of being able to do something that you've loved and you've been doing for such a long time. So it's been for me, it's been an eye-opener. For the people that'll watch it, they'll probably get to see some more great artwork around a house full of art, which must be it must drive you, it must drive you insane, because there's like all these different paintings all around the house and nowhere to put them. And I can imagine
it doesn't drive me insane. I mean, I this is but for me, I mean, this is my studio. I mean, the only person that grumbles about it is my mum, and and my partner lately has she's not grumbling about it either, but they always make, because to me this is my place of work. It's not, even though I live here, it's not really. I find it's my working space. It's my studio. It's my office. It's I probably need another property, if I'm honest. I need somewhere to live.
Yeah.
And this is my studio and office, but I enjoy it. I mean, if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. You hit on something there about the actual, my mind around it, because a lot of the times, a lot of people don't see that. They don't see the the planning, because I don't just the Fighting Irish one I told you about earlier.
Yeah.
I read a book first before I even did the painting, because I read a book. It's called, I can't remember what the book's called now. Something about the Fighting Irish, and but I read that book and took notes first prior, because there was I think there's 38 fighters in the painting, but there was I had to specifically, you couldn't just chuck them all in, and there's a lot of fighters that could have gone on that painting. So there's a lot of research that goes into some, not all of them, but there are in some. And sometimes, especially like, for instance, the one downstairs, the Saudi Arabia piece of Joshua Rui, it took a number of, I didn't just start it straight away, because I wasn't sure the way, I wasn't sure the way I wanted to do it. And I wanted to know where it was being held first. The fact that it was in Diriyah. And let me know if this clock's off, because I just beeped again.
Yeah, will do.
And I wanted to capture that within the painting, and I wasn't sure that I was going to do it. So and Diriyah is a very historical place over there as well. So I felt that it was a perfect composition for the piece. I felt that it worked really well. But I didn't come up with an idea straight away. I'm looking at different things. I'm looking at, I'm even waiting for the fight to be announced sometimes, where it's going to be, what historical link has I got to the, and it was the first ever fight in Diriyah in Saudi Arabia. So I wanted that to be in the piece, But unless I say that, probably people don't really think about it.
No, No, I don't think people do they? Because they look at they look at the finished article. People, even myself included, I look at a finished article of a piece of work that you've done, and I think, wow. And then I think people maybe just, I mean, I know I've thought that at times until hearing what goes into it all. But you look at it and you think to yourself, wow, how has been able to put together something so magical on print like that or on a canvas? And it's like you don't realize how much thought has to go into it and how much planning and preparation has to go into it to be able to put it together and merge it in a way where it looks so smart and so striking to people.
Yeah, the composition's got to work correctly. Do you know what I mean? I'm on everything really. I'm on my Twitter. I'm on there a lot, which is Killian. Sorry, my Twitter is Pat_Killian Art, which is no bloody changed. Well, it changed from the last one. My Instagram is Killian_Art. My YouTube is Patrick J. Killian. But if you just type my name in, something will come up anyway. I come up on Google and wherever.
It's not that hard pressed to find any of your work, is it?
Social media, I think, come up. They're all on my website anyway, which is killianart.com.
And that's where people will be able to find a great display of all your work. And obviously, if they want to purchase anything that's already on there, that's available, and they can do, can't they? And they can
and
get a few of them.
Website and it's all there. And if it's not, send me a message if there's something you see somewhere else and it's not on the website.
Well, Patrick, you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure to sit down and speak to you and go through.
Oh, mate, I enjoyed it. No, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on the show, and appreciate it, mate. Thanks.